here, right? No. It's the joy of being a live stream, coming to you live from Brooklyn, New York, and we're very happy to be here with you, very happy to see you, happy in general, just general happiness. Excited to be here with you today, folks. Today is Freaky Friday. Today is the day where we develop our meditation based on your personal requests. So, as you know, happy Friday, Black Skulls Merton, got him. Let me know if there's if I'm reading it wrong, if there's a shorter version of that, or however you want me to say it. A lot of people will actually tell me their actual name they want me to say, and I have to then translate Black Skulls Merton as Jeff or whatever. Okay, welcome everyone, and as you know, today being Friday, we want your request, Denny. If I will call you Denny, unless that's a joke, happy to. So but you'll have to remind me. But if that's real, tell me, and then we'll go from there. So real quick is today's meditation is based on your request, of course. It's my name, great. So Denny, remind me though, because I'll start reading blah, and I'll have to remind me, Denny. If I make that mistake, anyone else can remind me too. See, here's a good example. Jean. I have to read those letters as Jean. Jean, good morning from snowy upstate New York. That's lovely to see you here. Denny says, I will. It takes me a little while, and then all of a sudden it locks in. And if I were to see those words in a book, I'd say Jean and Denny. Based on your request or interest today, I have an idea of what I would do if no one makes any requests. I can tell you what that is. I don't really want to spoil your ideas, but there was a meditation I did yesterday with my comedy improv group where we were connecting. It was a compassion meditation, and we're connecting with compassion and finding parts of ourselves that struggle to take in compassion. So if that is of interest, then we will do that. But if you have an idea, if there's something or both, tell me what's going on. Tell me what you're having a hard time with or interested in, that kind of thing. Nate says, might sound weird, but I'm looking for a meditation I can use when I wake up. Something simple and repeatable. Okay, now I have two ideas suddenly, because I was using this meditation last night when I was waking up from sleep. Something that you can use when I wake up. So a little more, just so you know, Nate, typically what I do with bedtime related meditations. So there's 3 areas of meditation related to bedtime. Before I go to sleep, if I wake up in the night, and when I wake up. The way I like to think of it is like sleep packages. There's parts of sleep where I have my volition's not really going to work very well, but each of those is bracketed on either side where I can actually take an action or do a meditation or intentionally do something. So typically when I'm focusing on meditation and sleep, I'm trying to do the same meditation before, at the end of the sleep pillow, and either way. So if it's just when I wake up or if it's in the middle of the night, it's the same thing. And you can use any meditation. That's the key, is anything that is interesting, anything that feels like it'll connect, whatever. So you can use any meditation. That's the pro tip. But there's a couple ideas that I have. One is related to how to hold the experience of difficult sensations, even pain. And actually, maybe I'll save that one because we have a guest coming on soon, and I actually had talked about how to externalize and how to manage a difficult emotion or difficult pain sensations. So that is, maybe I'll save that one. But either way, any other requests, thoughts, ideas, curiosities, interest, opportunities, needs, fantasies, filigrees, whatever you got. Nate says, I'm talking morning meditation, like I go, like to get a good start on the day, build momentum. So again, sorry to be so broad, but it really depends on what you want out of the day, what kind of momentum you're trying to build. Do you want momentum of compassion, which is something we could do? Do you want momentum of, a mind that's more settled? Do you want to give yourself a hit of adrenaline? Do you want, depending on what these things are. And again, we're not going to do a meditation for each of these today, but you can pick a meditation that will fit for you based on those things. Let's see here. Good morning from Rory, coming to us from Kingston, Ontario. That's the other thing, is remind me, everyone, where you're coming from. Denny, remind me where you're coming from, unless you already did. Did you already tell me? No. And anyone else as well. Excited for Friday fun times. Guys, I'm really happy to be here. You know, this is... in Harlem. Oh, you're in Harlem? Holy cannoli. I didn't know that. That's so cool. I didn't know you were so local. That's so great. Well, Denny, thanks for joining us. As you're wait, let me get my directions right. You're this way. You are this way to me. As far as the direction the camera's pointing. So, hello, Denny. Hello, Jean. Let me get my geography straight. Deep, beep, pop, pop. Hello, Rory, I believe. Hello, Nate. Hello, everyone. Welcome. So any other requests or interests of things you want to explore during the guided meditation today? We are taking requests. Today is a request. Any challenges, difficulties. You don't have to know what the meditation is going to be. You just have to know what challenges you're having or interests that are coming up in your practice. I made some very hot water today, so I'm like enjoying the blazing... I don't know if it's actually steaming. I don't know if you can see that, but usually it's not so blazing. Okay, so hit me with those requests. Otherwise, I'm gonna do what I was thinking. And I realize I sort of don't want to. I have done this in the past before. I'll come to a class and say, I have an idea, but if you have an idea, we can do your idea. Almost universally, people are like, let's just do your idea, assuming that I'm going to know best. Not the case. Often, I think maybe I shouldn't offer any idea that I have. I should just wait until everyone goes crazy and types something into the chat, and then we'll build a meditation off that. But of course, you're not in meditation detention, at least not yet, young lady. Okay, so find that nice comfortable position. We're going to start meditating in a moment here. If you're new to this stream, which I always want to make sure we welcome you thoroughly. So if you're new here, just let us know. If you're either new to meditation or new to the stream, we have a nice way of welcoming you. The next thing is that, beep up, beep up. You've heard me say this before. Find a nice comfortable position that you can maintain for the duration of the sit. We're going to maintain effectively almost complete stillness. The almost complete is based on the fact that if you feel overwhelmed, even starting, like even a hint, it's okay to make an adjustment or this kind of thing. You don't have to, but it's a good idea rather than wait till the very end where you're like, I gotta move, because that trains the system that meditation is no fun. So if you feel overwhelmed, just go ahead and make a micro adjustment, because you actually probably don't need a lot. Arrange yourself so that you're sitting at the edge of your cushion or your chair, so that your hips can rock down, your knees are lower than your hips. Still want to make some kind of animation or something for that. I think that would be fun. Okay, folks, find that nice comfortable position. Everything is in order. When you're ready, we will begin. Let me think for a second, because I did really like the meditation that I'm... Okay, before we start, one more thing. I'm going to need people to jump into the chat for 1 second. Anyone right now currently able to detect difficult emotion or physical pain? Tell me that now, because that's going to help me figure out what to guide. If no, say no. I want to know both sides, not just the people who do. I want to hear both. Real quick, just hit me up, and that'll decide the way the meditation goes today. So like stress, sadness, anxiety, maybe even like joy that's too intense, or anything like that, or pain in the body, that kind of thing. We got 1 vote for no. A very sore shoulder for physical pain. Okay, great. Good to hear. Nope. Nate says nope. Anyone else? Jean says no. Okay, we're getting a trend here. So, Denny, as far as the physical pain, we're going to allow that to be there, but not we're not going to focus on it. The mind will probably be drawn to it a number of times because the mind is always pulled to the most dominant, or often pulled to the most predominant sensation. That's fine. You don't have to fight that, but we'll let that be in the background for now. So we won't be doing something based around pain. And we will begin. Beginning by taking a few comfortable deep breaths and just feeling the body rise and fall. Attending to the sensations of the breath. The expanding and contracting of the abdomen, or the rising and falling of the torso. Knowing that, of course, the mind at times will drift away, and we're simply guiding it back, like we're training a puppy over and over. Kind repetition wins the day. As we observe the body breathing, also physically relaxing the body. If it feels like we've already relaxed the body, just going further. As strange as it might sound, relaxing more than we can physically feel. Relaxing all the way down to the level of the bone, where the muscle meets the bone. These micro tensions that we rarely notice. Taking a moment to bring awareness to the overall experience of the body. So the breath is included here, but we're not so worried about this detail. Simply a general sense of all of the body's sensations, not worrying about capturing each detail, just what the general pool of body feels like now. We're going to begin by imagining a kind and deserving being in front of us. Being sure that we don't worry so much about the details, what kind of being, what visual look it has. Just the fact that it's deeply deserving. Deserving of our kindness. Again, we don't need to produce compassion or kindness. Just to know that this being stands here in front of us. It can be vague in shape and size. The salient detail is that it is deserving of kindness. And this is a faultless being. And like any meditation, at times the mind will drift to other thoughts, perhaps feeling it needs to pick the perfect being, or different images flash through the mind. Or just general distraction, other sensations, sounds, the body sensations. So we simply come back to this awareness of this being simply existing here in front of us. And there's nothing being asked of us. We can relax into the fact that there's nothing for us to do. Aside from knowing this being, from having a sense of its presence, there's no need for us to be someone or accomplish anything. Like any relationship, much of the fiber of this relationship is simply being together, being here with this being. This being that's so deserving of kindness. It's as though it's a kind of magnet, pulling compassion, pulling our innate ability to care. Without us needing to do. This being simply draws these qualities from us. Feeling this being and feeling this gravitational pull of compassion. It may or may not be available, but feeling this pull all across the front of the body. Again, we're not trying to create anything. The only thing we've created is an awareness of this being. And we're simply observing the subtle effect of this creation. Allowing this being to come closer, to be just a few inches from the body. Again, attending to the experience of the gravitational pull and the faultless, harmless, deserving nature of this being. Deeply deserving of our compassion. Our care. attending to how easy the process is, how little we need to do. Just the bare knowledge of this being. Now we're going to make another change, and I'd like you to pay very close attention to what occurs as this change happens. So allowing that being to enter the body itself. Entering the torso, and notice if anything changes. If it remains as easy, to detect this compassion, or if turbulence arises. If it becomes more difficult. And of course, this difficulty or turbulence, if it arises, is not at all a problem. In fact, we want it to treat it as a friend, as valuable information. It would be easy for the mind to treat the being as good, and any turbulence that arises as not good. Something we like and something that either we don't like or feels like it's getting in the way. But what we've discovered is a part of us that has a harder time taking in this kind of compassion. And if that's not there, if we don't notice that kind of turbulence or difficulty, that's fine. Simply staying with this being, occupying a part of our body. But if we do notice this turbulence, perhaps emotion in the body that feels discordant, perhaps the mind grumbling or saying phrases, I don't like this, this is disagreeing with the process. Perhaps it's a mind that felt very settled with the first portion of this practice and now feels more agitated. We want to get to know this part. We want to apply that ability for kindness, acceptance, this reading of faultlessness to this part. And in this way, letting the resistance become the deserving being. This part too deserves compassion. This part too deserves to be heard. To be felt. And if we are in contact with this part, this turbulence, it may be the case that it needs something different. It needs to be perceived or held in a different way. Perhaps it needs to be left alone or given space. Perhaps it needs a kind of relaxation within the body or a subtle physical adjustment. It can be helpful to know that parts of us feel discordant, and this is natural. Parts of us can feel out of place, and this is okay. This is an ordinary human experience. Noticing if there's any pressure we've created unconsciously for this part to not feel uncomfortable, for the discomfort or discord to go away. And simply holding our overall experience in a way that just is with this more turbulent part, not wanting it to change, not asking it to be different or more comfortable. Like the beginning of any relationship, simply being together. Staying with the practice, staying in stillness, allowing a tiny bit of light to enter the eyes. Eventually allowing the eyes to rest on a single point as they fully open. Connecting with this kind being, connecting with any turbulence that's arisen. With the part of us that can be compassionate to both. The part that doesn't need anyone to change. This is the core of true compassion. And in this way, allowing this particular moment to be the great teacher that shows us how we might bring this practice into every aspect of our life. Okay. So, what on earth was that experience like? Now, I've mentioned this a bajillion times, but if you haven't heard it, I'll say it again now. Use your digital technology in order to transfer your internal landscape through the wires and cords of the internet, up and down through satellites, into my reading eyeballs, and thus into my understanding. What was that experience like? If you'd like to just chat about it, sometimes it's easier than figuring out how to type things down. You can jump into our Zoom, highly encouraged, makes for a lively conversation. And but let me know if you want to jump in there. And what was the next thing? Is what was that experience like? Now, first thing to notice, or one thing to remember, is that whenever there's a prescriptive meditation, okay, let's do this very specific thing. The mind is going to produce opposite things. It's going to produce, annoyance or frustration or things that are totally disconnected. And there's highly likely that there's someone on this call who's like, that didn't make any sense to me, or I was very confused, or for most of it, it was way over here, but you were describing something over here, or I was so distracted I couldn't make out what you were saying. All of these are valid and important reports. For me to get a sense of what other people's experiences were like so I can adjust things and guide this meditation better next time. But also for us to actually have a sense of what occurred when we came in contact with these sort of words or sensations. That's the important thing. What if you were able to succeed at the meditation that I described, much less important than this was my experience. So Denny says, post-integration, the main turbulence for me was significant increase in mental talk. Very interesting. Okay, here's what I'd be curious about, Denny. In your describing integration as when the being sort of comes into the body. that's really great clarity, very good sensory clarity. And that's the exact kind of thing that we want to notice, because over time we start to notice when this part of us, or this self, we talk about it in the multiple self model or in the parts model, when this self arises, it expresses itself through mental talk, blah, blah, blah. And over time we can start to sort of decode what's happening here and sort of what it's saying and what's the underlying meaning behind what it's saying, or is there emotion driving the talk that we can find contact with, this kind of thing. Very important details. That's great. Is this the Halloween special? Is today Halloween? No. Yes, it is the Halloween special. That's why I'm wearing a mask. Yes. Excellent. So Denny says, the mental talk then manifest in physical pressure on the left side of my skull. Okay. See, this is all very interesting stuff, and it's very important. Now, from like a certain perspective, you'd say, well, what does it mean? It's on the left side of the skull. Like, what does that mean? It's from a phenomenological perspective, meaning just experiential, raw sense data. It's less important sort of where it is or what it does than it is active. Okay, there was a pressure over here. A lot of the time, these different selves or parts manifest in different parts and areas in the body. For me, the major experience was weirdly on the back of my left side, all down my back. And that was the part that felt like there was discord, like something was off. And then I noticed, I gave this in the guidance, but I noticed that part of me was like, you shouldn't be discordant. This shouldn't be like this, which sometimes is an indication of another part, which we didn't get into. But there's a part that's like, no bad feelings, right? So that's some part that like wants this part to go away. Often our inner experience is a fight between parts. But today we're just looking at the part that felt discordant, trying to create a kind of pillow of acceptance around that. And we can begin over time. We didn't get into this because it's only one meditation, but we have a whole series on these. We can ask it to speak. Maybe for some people it did speak. Maybe it said certain words like Denny was describing, and we got a sense of what its voice was. Maybe it's like, this is stupid. Why are we doing this? I don't like, right? And so that's a voice that is pushing against the experience, and that voice is ultimately saying something's wrong, meaning that part feels like something's wrong. So we can translate that to a more universal thing to like, something's wrong, right? So that it's possible that part feels fundamentally like something is wrong, and it navigates the world being like, something's wrong. For me, this is how it is. I have to fix something. I have to do something. I have to correct something. And that's how it'll navigate the world. For other people, it'll be like, something's wrong. You need to change this person or that person. Something needs to be different about them, or something is wrong. I need to go to sleep, or whatever it is. So we begin to get to know these parts and get to know that, and try to meet those fundamental needs. This is, I mentioned this before, but the theory goes, or a theory, which I support, is that a lot of addiction is actually a part of us or parts of us that are not getting their needs met, so they go out and do really destructive stuff because it meets their needs and they don't care what the effects are. I joke about like, there's some part of us needs a sense for excitement and connection and having some sort of spiritual experience that's different. So we're going to try like crystal meth, and it's like, no. Like those are all perfectly wholesome drives or needs, but we want to make sure we execute those in ways that doesn't harm us or harm others and supports the overall system. Rory says, I definitely noticed bringing the being inside shifted from how much compassion I had for it. I appreciated the instruction that all of this is natural, and actually felt myself allowing all of it to be what it was. That's great. Not even that your experience aligned with what I was guiding, because again, it doesn't have to, and sometimes that misalignment is great information. You're not doing something wrong if you're distracted or this kind of thing. What is great is the capacity to allow them to be what they are. To be discordant, to be annoyed or frustrated, that is actually the key. In a lot of meditation, especially any nurture positive meditation where we're creating something more ideal, right? Some being, or we're praying to a god, or to we're saying loving phrases to ourselves, this kind of thing. Typically, we look at the positive part or the thing we read as positive, and everything else that arises is like a distraction. We're like, I love you to myself. And, it's funny, the character on Saturday Night Live, this is some ancient stuff, but Stuart Smalley says a lot of positive affirmations to themselves. And it's this character, if you've never seen it, it's this character on Saturday Night Live who's like, he's like, you're good enough. You're lovable enough. And God darn it, people like you. And he sits there in the mirror and says all these affirmations. And I think that it's based on Al Franken coming in contact with some of these communities through getting his own support and then seeing the very silly side of it and sort of caricaturing that. So the point that I was making was the joke there is that by being so emphatically like, I love you, and sweet, the part of us that resists that arises, and it's like, ugh, and it rejects that. And so there's a comedy there. And the issue is that if we do that to ourselves, that part arises. So we say these kind phrases to ourselves, and the part that's like, this is stupid, this is a dumb exercise, I don't like this, like this is awful, we say, oh, just ignore that part and just stay with the part that's positive. Well, that's not really a great idea. Actually, ideally, we would see that part and, okay, great, this part of me can take these things in, let's develop that skill. And then this part of me cannot, so, well, what would meet its needs? What phrase or set of things or way of holding it experientially would meet its needs? Sometimes it's something different, like, hey, I'll give you all the space that you need, and we actually give it space to be angry or whatever it is. But to find that underlying need and to see if we can meet that. Let's see, Nate says, physical sensation like turbulence of two rivers meeting, or the something's wrong talk for me was an unmet need for acceptance. Well, that's really awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that and for that detail, because that is exactly that kind of underlying thing shows us, once we have that little kernel, we can say, okay, well, what would actually make that part feel acceptance? Because this is a problem, especially if folks, I don't know if anyone identifies with this, but who has obsessive thoughts or thoughts that tend to like keep going and going. This is a lot of people. I'm sort of being general, but this is a lot of people have thoughts like this, especially right now, right around the election. Like, I can't read news without my mind going like, flash red and be like, what's happening? Have I donated enough money? Like whatever. So with those thoughts, it's important for us to cultivate, and this is hard, to cultivate the thing that will meet the needs. So while I might sit here, let's take acceptance for an example. I might sit here and think, oh my God, like maybe I said something wrong or whatever, and focus on the part that the mind might grip onto of non-acceptance, of alienation. I was talking with a friend about this phenomena that happens where you think about suddenly a thought of something that you've done wrong in the past, often something embarrassing, hits you, and you get this like, I don't know if anyone else has this, but this like stomach wrenching, like, oh, like embarrassment, physiological thing in like the chest and belly. Like, there's a tie-in between the autonomic nervous system and the digestion and the fight or flight instinct, and all of that goes like, so on the one hand, there's that, and we will tend to pay attention to that because it's the most predominant sensation, which the mind is, just tends to just pay attention to whatever's predominant. And part of the training, and this is what meditation can teach us, is that we can pay attention to something much more subtle. So there's something like red light blinking over here, but can we actually, as this red light blinks, pay attention to this much less intense thing over on the other side, right? And it takes time because we look and then we get pulled away, and we look and we get pulled away. But it is trainable. So over time, we start to say, okay, this makes me feel acceptance when I, call people and say hello and they say hello back or whatever it is, or I feel like I'm part of a community. I mean, I mentioned I'm in this improv group, great folks. I feel like connected and I feel like camaraderie when we do the improv group. Just by doing it, I feel this thing and it works. Now I could worry about, oh, but what do people think of me? Or what if, we have a great teacher, what does he think? And my mind could get caught in that loop. But it's part of my training, if I want to be a happy person, is to pay attention to the part that actually feels good and let that other part sort of go away. Pro tip though, very often when we get in that obsessive loop, the thing that we're hoping we could get one day is actually occurring right now in some form. And that might sound strange, but it's often the case that if we want acceptance, or we want to be heard, or there is some place that's actually occurring, and we're just sort of ignoring it. That's what the mind will often tend to do. Denny says, "Oh, 100% multiple times a day." Oh, with that response, that nervous system response of like embarrassment. Yeah, and it's just helpful to know. I mean, in that case, okay, that's not occurring. I'm not being, there's not a shame experience right now. In fact, it's quite calm right now, and the mind keeps getting drawn to the concern about shame, and that's fine. It gets drawn 1,000 times, and all we have to do is be kind and diligent, and 1,001 times bring it back to whatever experience, maybe that kind being. Maybe we carry that kind being with us all the time. And we get good enough at meditation and the different types of meditation that whatever it is, I don't care what you use, but we can train ourselves to not have to get sucked down those sort of negative thought loops. Therapy, exercise, all of the things. We do whatever we can to not get stuck in a pit of despair. Excellent. Okay, folks, any other questions, reports, interest, opportunities, things to say before we slide away into the ether? Anyone want to report what they're doing for Halloween? If it involves, Raquel and I were going to just get dressed up in the house. That was part of our idea. Wait, Halloween's on Saturday. Maybe we should do something. We're forming a pod with folks, 2 other couples, and we're going to do we all have the same rules for contact with other people, and if we get exposed in some way, we have one of the people who's going to be working at the polls for election day, so they're going to get tested afterward, this kind of thing. So there's a lot of specifics we all agreed on, and I hadn't thought about that. What about Halloween? What could we do? Maybe we do something fun. Okay, folks, so it looks like no more questions, thoughts, experiences that want to be shared. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little birthday wish here, folks, right here in this moment. Let's recreate our meditation in a little different form. Let's have that deserving being just be in all directions around us. This sense that we know it's here. It's actually, this deserving being is in the room with us, and we just need to locate it. It's okay if we can't locate it. We know it's here. Where is that being? What I notice when I'm doing this is that the opposite arises. I keep seeing where it is not. Everything I see is like, no, that's not it. And that's the most predominant thing happening again, the mind being pulled to the negative. So the trick is, in this case, is a little tricky, but ask this mind, our perception, if this is happening for you, what is not present here? It's this being. This is not present, which draws it to the surface. So Tomalon subscribed. Thank you so much for this subscription, Tomalon. Just so folks know, you can follow and subscribe. It's very appreciated, supports the channel. Okay, folks, so in this moment, listening to the lovely tunes, connecting with our sense of that innate being, knowing that even if we can't bring it up right now, it's not a big deal, because we know we have the capacity to connect with this innate, harmless, kind experience of existing that is part of our nature as a human. So knowing that experience, knowing that we can carry that experience and blend it in and weave it through any aspect of our lives, just having the potential for that, so lovely. We had some emotes shared here by Denny. Thank you so much. Very kind. Denny, you gifted a subscription here to the community. That's very, very kind of you. Thank you so much. As always, very appreciated. So folks, have a lovely day. Great to see you here. As always, practice well. Take care of each other. Have fun, and we will see you all very, very soon. Happy Halloween.